Hello, in a previous video I showed you how a constant tension pull machine such as MiStringer can pick up the slack when you're stringing a racket. And that's very important because without constant tension pull it's really difficult to pick up the slack. So after you string a racket it will quickly lose tension, and especially after you play with it, after you hit the ball or the shuttlecock or whatever you're playing, it will lose tension and stiffness very quickly. And in this video I'm here with a lockout machine, which is not a constant tension pull machine. And what a lockout machine is that when you set the tension to a certain tension and you pull the string, it stops pulling as soon as you reach that tension, which means that after it locks, any slack there is in the string, it will not continue to pull, so it will not take up the slack, it will lose tension. So I'm going to show you here the best way to try and do this with a lockout machine, a non-constant tension pull machine. With this is the MiStringer machine, and you can kind of do it, but it's not nearly as good as a constant tension pull machine. So here we go. Now as you can see, none of these strings are tensioned. I just thread it through. They're very soft and there's no tension in them. And I'm only going to pull this last string. When I pull this last string, and it's set right around 45 pounds, just like in my other video with MiStringer. So I'm going to pull the string. Okay, so there we go. Now it reached the tension that was set at 45 pounds. So this string is more or less tension at 45 pounds. However, these strings are not. These strings are very soft. So normally what I normally do is I push down on these strings, trying to get the tension from the inside to the outside to the tension head. And as I push on, see, this string is getting a little bit looser and looser. However, because this is a lockout machine, the tension head is locked. It's stopped pulling anymore. So as I bring the slack out to the tension head, the tension obviously goes down. But because this is locked, you can't really increase the tension back up to where it should be. So what you're going to have to do is, first of all, you're going to have to clamp the string. So here I do. I clamp the string, and you're going to have to pull it again, like this. Okay, so what I'm going to try and do is, as long as the tension head doesn't lock, it is constant tension pulling. It's pulling at a constant tension. However, it's obviously going to be a lot looser than 45 pounds or whatever tension you set it at. But I'm going to try and pick up the slack without locking the machine. So here we go. I start pulling a little bit. I release the clamp. And then I try and bring the slack to the outside so that the tension head can pick it up. Now, the problem with doing this is that as soon as I release the clamp, this string is obviously not being put at 45 pounds. It's being put a lot less because it hasn't reached the tension that it was set at. So I'm trying to pick up the slack with a much lower tension. So I do this, and then I try and lock it again. Oops. Here we go. So again, now that it's locked, it's not pulling anymore. So I'm gonna try and bring as much slack to the tension head. See if we can pick up the slack, take up the slack as much as possible. I'm gonna clamp. Again, release the tension head. And I'm gonna try and do this again. So again, I'm pulling this, oh, here we go. So again, I'm pulling the string. I'm trying to bring as much slack to the outside. But again, I'm not pulling at full tension. I'm pulling less than 45. And I am picking up a little bit of slack, but it's not nearly as good as a constant tension pull. Here we go. So then I locked it. I bring it up again. And I try and do this again without locking the machine. As best I can, I'm trying to get as much tension to the outside without locking the machine. You know, and it's better than nothing, but again, I'm still losing a lot of tension in between because I'm not pulling at the full tension. Here we go, I locked again. And I clamp. And try to do this again. Again, I'm slightly pulling the string, but it's not at full tension. And this is kind of like the best way that you can do this. But however, it's not very good. I mean, for the most part, I'm not getting nearly as much slack. I'm not picking up nearly as much slack as I would have on a constant tension pull machine. Because every time I'm pulling, I'm not pulling at full tension. Okay. So, as a result, I mean, you just have to set the tension at a much higher level. So, I'm going to take it out here. So, I increased the tension another 10 pounds, so it's about 55 now. So, here we go. So without locking, I'm going to try and get as much slack as possible. You're just going to have to accept that you're going to have to set your tension a lot higher on a lockout machine compared to a constant tension pull machine. There we go. Okay, so that's a little bit better. And I clamp the string. And again, you just got to keep doing this over and over and over again. I release, and I pull again, I start pulling again, open the clamp, and start trying to get as much slack to the outside. But again, every time I release the tension, you know, you lose a lot of tension, and you're not pulling at the full thing, the full setting. So, okay, and then you clamp. So to a certain extent, I have been able to tension these strings a little bit, but it's a lot more tedious, a lot more time consuming, and not nearly as effective as on a constant tension pull machine. So that is why it's very important, or it's very recommended to get a stringing machine with constant tension pull, because then it means you can string a stiffer racket at a lower tension, which is always better for the racket, always better for the string, less stress on both. The more you stress out the racket, the more you stress out the string, the worse performance you're going to get. The racket's not going to last as long. Poly strings are never recommended to pull harder than 52 pounds because they lose their resiliency. So that's why constant tension pull is better than a lockout machine or non-constant tension pull.